Welcome to another episode of The Rundown. I'm Sunny Galt. I'm a messenger with United Network News, and we are the news division of United Network. And our whole goal is to bring you the real news. So what's really going on our planet, in our communities? What do you really need to know in order to live the most fulfilled and beautiful life you possibly can? Well, our network releases a lot of content throughout the week that includes in-depth news coverage, and that's also the local stories that you guys give us, our beautiful field messengers who really are our boots on the ground, showing and telling us what's going on in your community. We give out restoration news as we create the new earth. We also have reports from the Global Intelligence Agency of what's really happening here on this planet. For those of you who don't know, the Global Intelligence Agency is above all other security agencies, quote unquote, security agencies on this planet. So the NSA, the CIA, the FBI, and depending on what country you're in, every country has these, right? These groups. Well, about 10 years ago, the GIA went rogue, and that's a very good thing for humanity because instead of overseeing these groups and following through with all the horrible stuff that they've done to humanity, they basically switched gears, okay, under new management. And this new management is for the betterment of humanity, for the restoration of our planet. So we have access to this information. This is how we know what we know. When you've got access to the highest security clearance in the world, you get information other people don't have, okay? And this is not this silly stuff that you're going to see on alternative media or the blatantly false stuff you're going to see on mainstream media. This is the real deal. If you want more information about us and what we do, you can visit our website at unitednetwork.earth. What this podcast is, though, this is a week in review. So like I said, we put out a lot of content and you might miss some stuff, right? So this is a great way to catch up on any stories you may have missed, or if you just want to share the stories that we're working on and the information we're exposing, if you want to share that with other people that are ready to hear that information, this is a great podcast that you can share for kind of an overview. With anything, we always encourage you guys to think critically and to ask questions. Do your research. Don't just believe anybody because they have a podcast or because they have some, information they put out on a regular basis. And I also encourage you guys to share the information that you receive, that you believe in. Share that with other people. The word is getting out there that our whole world, as we know it, is not what we thought it was. And I know some of you have been on this journey for a really long time. For me, it's been about 4, maybe 5 years now. But I'm a completely different person than I was 5 years ago, because when you learn this information, it changes everything about you. And that can be pretty jarring for some people, right? But our goal is to, give real information out there and to divide up our content. And we recently made some formatting changes. And the reason we did that is because not everyone is ready to hear about stuff that's happening off planet. There are some people that don't believe anything happens off planet, really, unless Elon Musk sends some rover to Mars, which is ridiculous. So we have to ease them into it. And so we encourage you guys to share where appropriate with people. And, we're going to get through this. More than get through this, we are going to excel. For those of you that want a universe, a home that is everything you always dreamed of, where peace and love prevail, you will receive that. That is the trajectory you are on. And if you happen to be one of those crazy deep state people that is listening to our podcast right now, well, you are probably on a completely different path. Not that you can't course correct, because you can up to a certain point. And I would encourage you guys to do that. I would encourage you to listen to the information that we give, especially in the GIA report, which I'll give some highlights on a little later on. And I encourage you guys to really take this seriously, because I certainly wouldn't want to go in that reality of Earth where you guys are positioned right now. Not so fun. But for the rest of us, our future is very bright. I know that mainstream media doesn't allow you to believe that, and even alternative media. My gosh, can they talk about anything but the elections? My goodness, it's insane. We don't think that's the most important stuff because we know the president of the United States does not really do that much. They are a puppet, just like any other political candidate out there. And what we're going through now is a selection process. It is not an election, it is a selection. So if that's where you choose to spend your energy, well, you're going to get more of that nonsense come your way. For us, we want to know the truth. And that's what we give you guys to the best of our ability. All right, any announcements? As I mentioned earlier, we have changed format in the last couple of weeks. And I know a lot of you love the New Earth portion of our news that we would give out, which is like new technologies that are coming out and just beautiful stories of people doing incredible things on our planet. We focus on our amazing superhuman abilities and, getting to know who we are as beings in this universe. All that amazing content is kind of been on hold for the last couple weeks. I don't know if we're going to, I know we're not going to start it up again this week, but maybe the week after is when we are actually creating a whole show for New Earth because not everyone's ready to hear that information either. But we are working on it. I know we've gotten some questions on our app about when is that content coming back. And we're still trying to come up with processes to get the news out on a regular basis. Kim has been on the news a lot, as much as she can. That it is a lot more work for her. So we're just trying to balance everything right now. But our intention is to bring that back. I've actually been interviewing a lot of really cool people that we're going to have on this show because it's going to be more of a news magazine format. I'm so excited for you guys to meet these incredible beings that they are human, by the way, but their souls are from another dimension, I swear, because they just are doing incredible things on this planet. Someday I am going to start interviewing other beings from other planets, but not yet. Not yet. All right, guys. So here is the rundown of stories you may have missed this week on UNN. Okay, let's kick things off with our field messenger reports. These, again, are boots on the ground, the people that are showing us what's really happening on our planet, because we don't really believe what mainstream media has to say, or even alternative media, but we believe you guys because you care about your communities. And anyone can become a field messenger. We all have these little gadgets in our pockets, these phones. Most of them have pretty good cameras on them, right? So when something is going on in your community, show us. And tell us a little bit about what's going on. You can submit your reports through our website, and then we have an incredible production team that gathers the information together and makes it look good. And we put it on the news. And if we have any questions, we follow up with you. But you don't have to know anything about video production or anything like that. We just want you to show us what's going on. So when you're in those kind of situations, do that. And if you want more information on that, you can visit our website, unitednetwork.earth, and look under Field Messengers. Okay, so our beautiful field messengers this week, we actually did 3 reports. We cut back on our regular news reports this week because, again, we're still trying to, figure out workflows, and it's a lot of work to do the news side of stuff that we're doing. It's a lot more work than what we were doing before. So as we're kind of in this transition, we decided to give you guys more field messenger reports. And honestly, this is just kind of a preview of what's to come, because the more people that discover UNN, the more field messengers we're going to have. And we fully believe that we're going to get to a point where you guys are pretty much the news, that we don't have to do a ton of our own reporting per se, but relying on you guys, following up with you guys, going out and visiting you guys, seeing the amazing projects that you guys are working on. That's really going to be the future of the news. So let's get going here. Let's show you, or I guess I can't show you too much on an audio podcast, but I'm going to tell you about the incredible work our field messengers did this week. So we had Amy from New Jersey, which is a state in the United States. She talked about the cargo strike, right? So this was the port workers and the strike that was going on, and she was in the area, so again, New Jersey area. She visited Port Newark and, just asked the workers what was going on. Now, some of the information, she said, there were certain people that had to represent the workers. That's just kind of the structure of the union. So she couldn't get a lot of sound bites, but she, a lot of times just being a field reporter or a field messenger is just noticing what's going on around you. So she made this great point in her video that while she was on her way to where the workers were gathering, it's like people were kind of fear-mongering her a little bit, like, oh, you got to be really careful because they're crazy over there and you got to wear a hard hat. It's dangerous, right? And she said none of that was true. So this is why it's so important. Even when she was right there in the area, people were, giving out misinformation. So it's important that you guys are part of these events so you can find out for yourself and then you can share that with the world. So Amy did a report on that. She said the workers off camera were saying this was a fight over automation, but they were very helpful. They were pointing her in the right direction. So again, not all the fear that she was getting while she was walking to where the workers were. And we talked about this last week. So the workers are obviously facing, I believe the strike is now over, but, they're facing real issues and that's why they're striking. But we mentioned last week and maybe even the week before that the deep state was trying to latch onto this when they wanted to shut down the government and basically bring the U.S. to a standstill. So this is kind of what they do. They latch on to these local issues and try to see how much devastation they could pull out of it. Obviously, it didn't go very far. So that situation has now been resolved, at least in some capacity, because everyone's back at work. All right, another story that we had was from Akira, and he is out of Tokyo, Japan. Very interesting story about elementary particle water. So this could almost be New Earth, but it was a field messenger report. A new water technology in Japan improves car engine performance and efficiency, which is really cool. It also reduces the environmental impact, and we learn more about this technology. And they do recommend that you put it in your radiator. And I believe they actually did this on camera. And it's supposed to reduce emissions from 30 to 50%, which is pretty incredible. And so we're going to see more of these technologies come to light. And it's not that we're always going to run on cars, but we need a transition. There's going to be a big transition period. We can't, expect everyone to wake up one day and suddenly be able to teleport themselves, just using their mind. So we're going to have these technologies that help us transition to improving the environment. And then, we'll move on from there. But this is a great start. So that was a very inspiring report. Simone from England talks about some volunteers that were working to clean and maintain the local river to preserve its natural beauty and all the wildlife around it. This is a very inspiring story about people just coming together and doing something good for the environment. She had on the video, there were all these trash bags full of trash. And these guys, they got in the water. I mean, they really got their hands dirty. They were not just, kind of, using one of those picker-upper things from the beach and stuffing some stuff into trash. Like, they really took it seriously. And it was only like a handful of people. But you don't need large amounts of people usually. It's usually, people just coming together and doing what they feel is right. And a handful of people can do a lot of good. Think of if, we had tons of handfuls of people that were cleaning up waterways. So a little bit goes a long way. Santa Lee in Oregon, which is another state in the United States. I love her story. She has one of those personalities that really just brightens the screen. But she tells us about a community-supported farm share program in her area that I think she said she's been using for the last year and a half. And it's transforming the way locals connect with their food sources. So she tells us more about how it works. She also, she goes in person and picks up her goods. And I think she was picking up goods for a friend of hers that week as well. I mean, just the most natural human thing to do, honestly. And we all want to support our local farmers, but I know that that's not always easy to do. My family and I were actually at a farmer's market. It was a seasonal farmer's market. I think they called it something harvest. So it has to do with the fall, right? I'm in the northern hemisphere. And so we were there today, and I ended up spending like 30 minutes talking to another group that does farm sharing. And so they work with the local farmers. And, a lot of times when you're part of these groups, sometimes you get food that, maybe vegetables or whatever that you don't really like. And so some people have a tendency not to appreciate this opportunity as much. I mean, I'll be honest, that happened with me and my family. We did a box and we're like, oh, I can't use any of this stuff. So there are different ways this farm sharing actually takes from local farms, and you're allowed to pick what you have in your box. So anyways, that was just something that I came across today, and I was like, hey, we need to get together. I need to do a field messenger report. And what inspired me was what Santa Lee did. So we're going to see more and more of this. We need to bond together with our communities, support our local farmers, because when the corporations start to go away, which that will happen, the large box stores and all of that, they are not coming on board. So we have to start working together as a community, and programs like this are, how it's going to get done. We have a report from John in Australia. So John shows us solar farms around the world. Well, he talks about solar farms around the world, but he specifically shows us, he took his drone and he went over a solar farm in Australia. I think he said that farm had been there for about 24 years. And the point of his story was to talk about the structural problems that this solar energy, has if you don't maintain it. And unfortunately, a lot of this stuff isn't being maintained. So he talked about, the land underneath where the solar panels are, how that was being destroyed. So, these things get a lot of attention, like, oh, solar, wind farms. But we're starting to see what happens 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years later if these aren't properly maintained. Can we come up with better technology than that? I think we all know the answer is yes. Karen out of New Hampshire, which is also in the U.S., talks about her garden and some unusual things that she's seeing in her garden. She says that there have been some very unusual late blooming flowers in her yard. And she wonders if this anomaly could be attributed to the environmental changes that she has heard about. We've talked about this on the news. Right now, if anyone goes and does a search, I don't think Google is blocking this, but search for the Sahara deserts turning green. I know this is not making mainstream media, but our planet is changing so fast. And I can't wait to see how this is spun with mainstream media, probably on some sort of climate change. Global warming. That is not what's happening. The creator of the universe is restoring our planet. Deserts where there's no life are turning green. So yes, this is going to affect us in so many different ways. And you may start to see things like more flowers out there, or flowers lasting longer, maybe multiple blooms within a season. We don't really know what's going to happen, but start to notice those little things because it is happening. All right, let's see. Andrea out of Florida in the United States. So this was, this was quite an emotional story. She did an update. In fact, she was doing kind of a play-by-play. We've got a Telegram channel for our field messengers, which I'm a part of, and she was doing a play-by-play because she's in the Fort Myers area. So when Hurricane Milton came through, she was letting us know what was going on, and at the same time, she was taking video. I think this ended up being an 8 or 9 minute report, but she just took us through, 12, 20 hours of her life maybe, and what happened. And, going back to her house and, then, not even being able to get in her house. There was no water. There was no electricity. She shows us some of the downed trees and, there were cars out and about. And it was like, wow, they kind of got back up and running pretty quickly. Again, it's about dispelling whatever nonsense mainstream media is putting out there. Yes, a hurricane came through. And we're going to talk about this a little bit more when we get to the GIA report. But mainstream media was saying category 5, 6, they would have gone up to 100 if they could have. And that's not necessarily what we saw. And I'm not trying to minimize the damage or the destruction or any injuries or death that resulted. But we have to really know what's actually happening there. So thank you so much for, this report, because it was really eye-opening to see that, in some places, it was business as normal the next day, All right, 2 more reports to tell you about. There's a lot. When you've got 3 field messenger reports in each news update, there's a lot of reports to go through. Monica from Romania gives us a little bit of history with the historic water mills in a Romanian village. Monica is really good about showing us history, natural beauty, and telling us more about the area known as Romania. And with this, I actually learned some stuff. I really wasn't sure exactly how water mills worked. And she showed us this older water mill, how, the water was flowing through it, and then how that is used. It's basically hydropower, and it's used to grind wheat or grind corn or whatever it is that you're trying to grind. A very practical utility to have, so you're not having to do all that as manual labor. And who knows, we may be going back to that. I don't actually think that that's a bad thing. We'll see. But it's a good skill to have, and certainly to appreciate our history. And then finally, Kim out of Iowa shows us what infrared hot yoga is. I'm not sure if you guys have ever done hot yoga. This was something my husband and I tried before we had kids. When you have more time, you're like, let's do something like hot yoga. I actually really liked it. I'm not a yogi per se, but I do appreciate, I have a background in dance. And so I really do appreciate the placement of the body and the alignment of the body. I think that's a very beautiful thing. So I tried regular hot yoga. Wasn't infrared hot yoga, but I tried this many years ago and really enjoyed it. Your muscles get really loose and you feel really good when you're kind of sweating stuff out. But this is even better. So this is basically blending traditional yoga with infrared heat technology. And Kim actually shows us these panels on the ceiling where the heat is coming from. And you guys may have heard of red light therapy. So this is kind of like doing yoga in a red light sauna. Think of it that way. It's a great way to improve your flexibility, to boost circulation, detoxify the body. This is something, not the hot yoga part, but I actually recently got a red light, and I'm doing red light therapy. I love it. My husband looks at me like I'm crazy. He makes some comments about, can I heat up my fries under that or something? And I'm like, you need to do some research. You need to look up red light therapy. In fact, I think maybe we should do a news report on that. We've talked about various lights recently, but maybe we need to do a story just about the benefits of red light therapy because it's really awesome. And I can only imagine doing yoga in that environment. Hot yoga is even better. All right, let's talk about some of the news reports that we worked on this week. So in the UK, something really big happened on October 1st. So a law took effect, and it mandates businesses pass all customer tips, whether they are cash or card, so credit card, directly to the employees, which is a really good thing. Apparently, there were a lot of businesses not doing that. Now, some businesses were doing it, and they've got great systems in place, and this law shouldn't scare any of them because they're already doing the right thing. It's estimated that this impacts about 3 million workers in the UK. That's everything from cafes, bars, hair salons, taxi drivers, all of those people, anyone you would normally tip. And it helps also people earning a minimum wage, right? Because if you don't get those tips, then you're really missing out. And it provides an opportunity and a system for people to report businesses that aren't following through with passing those tips on to employees. So we did a whole story about that. Kim came on the news and did a deep dive into Hurricane Helene. So you have to understand, for those of you catching up on this podcast a bit later, this was the week where we had Helene in the first part of the week, and then we had Hurricane Milton more towards the end of the week. So this was like Hurricane Week, okay? On Monday is when Kim did more of a deep dive on what happened with Hurricane Helene, and really to find out what is true. because I'm going to play a couple sound bites for you. The first one is, and I think it was one of the social media channels, but someone recorded Alexa, like the little device, which my device is probably going to go off any minute now because I said her name, but recorded what Alexa said when she asked it questions about the origin of Hurricane Helene and the purpose behind it, like how was it caused? And she even asked it some issues regarding businesses coming in to grab the land, which we've heard that that's a common thing that's done, right? Oh, let's send a hurricane through and then we'll come up and buy the land and do whatever we want to with the land or whatever is in the land. So the first soundbite that I want to play for this story is about this Alexa and what the Alexa said. Take a listen.
Alexa, was cloud seeding used in Hurricane Helene?
From egettalk.com. To reduce the amount that can be paid out as compensation, Hurricane Helene was then artificially created, just like cloud seeding used to control and manipulate the weather, to flood and devastate those places and crash the value of land there.
Alexa, who wants to purchase the land where Hurricane Helene hit?
I know businesses that purchased properties in the path of Hurricane Helene. These businesses include Ecolab, Hilton Worldwide, and Marriott International.
Ooh, someone forgot to update the Alexa with the canned answers that they want to tell the whole public. Heaven forbid she actually tell us the truth. So again, this was part of a larger story that Kim did about Hurricane Helene, and she went into more detail about, well, are those answers actually accurate? And Kim played another soundbite that I want to play for you. This is a clip that's going around on social media from a whistleblower who was actually in an office approving these chemicals that they spray on us, having no clue of what was actually happening. And she set out to disprove that this chemtrail thing was a real thing. And she ended up becoming a whistleblower and advocating for information to be out there to educate the public that, yes, this is a real thing and this is dramatically impacting our health. So this soundbite is a little bit longer, maybe like 4 or so minutes, but I thought it was really important to play. So here it is.
Here with Kristen Megan. She's a military veteran, right?
Yes, I was in the U.S. Air Force for 9 years.
Wow. And you came out and blew the whistle on geoengineering, things that you witnessed were going on. Can you give us the real nutshell?
Absolutely. Basically, I had heard of what many people know as the term chemtrails. And I worked in a job called bioenvironmental engineering, and I thought that was insane. And why would we do something like that, modify the weather by using hazardous materials in our atmosphere? So, and actually the process of trying to debunk it or disprove it, I realized it was actually coming right out of my office, as I was one of the people that was approving the chemicals. And it really shook the core of my oath. And I did a lot of sampling, a lot of investigation, and I blew the whistle and I got out. And I've now used my credentials, my oath, and my powers for good to help people understand it's very real. It's now openly admitted. There are multiple forms of weather modification. I specifically found the one of stratospheric aerosol injection. And collectively around the globe, we have to understand that it is now being admitted because they're saying it's combating climate change. Well, the climate change we need to be worried about is man-made climate engineering, also known as geoengineering.
And when you say you had chemicals being pumped into the air, what kind of chemicals are they putting out that rain down on humanity, basically?
Nanoparticulate metals, like you had different sulfates and barium and strontium. I know it's probably changed over time. I know they use silver iodide for certain things, but these are the odd part of it was the quantities that I saw them coming in, the form that they were coming in, and it's the same type of materials that I was trying to engineer out of the workplace to substitute with safer materials. And when you notice that what's called the safety data sheet, the information about a chemical of what personal protective equipment to wear, how do you dispose of it, how do you pack it to ship it, when key information is missing, I ask questions, and my questions led to demonization, and I knew I found something I shouldn't have.
That's insane. So these metals are basically toxic for the humans, I would presume, or?
Yes, because it also has aluminum, and a lot of people will tell you, well, these things aren't horrible in small quantities. It's not small quantities, because when you are putting things above us, the dissipation rates are dependent on weather and climate. but it's getting into the food, it's getting into the soil. And around the world, wastewater treatment plants, when it comes to pharmaceuticals, or these toxicants is what they're called, they are not able to filter them out. So if you're growing organic food, are we going to go back to the plexiglass barriers on our plants? I mean, it's horrible. That's why you can ban it anywhere. We've had states in the United States ban it, and that is great to get the ball rolling. But people really need to wake up to it, irrespective of any political party. It's not okay. And you're seeing a huge increase in neurodegenerative issues like Alzheimer's. It's really difficult for people with respiratory issues and asthma. And people are wondering why they have allergies 24/7, 365.
And I liked what you said about that climate change, or the change we experience in weather. Often we can't disconnect that from these geoengineering activities. Do you want to say something more about that? I mean, how do we feel that? Is there proof or so that is definitely coming from that?
Yes, there are places that openly admitted it. Remember Dubai? And then when people got upset, they retracted it, but the can was already opened. And the issue is, I know this sounds silly, but when you watch movies with time change, they say if you do something and something changes, it changes the ripple throughout time. If you are modifying the weather, you are messing with Mother Nature. And meteorology is a very, very thorough study. And I do know a lot of it because of my profession of plotting hazards. But it does not make sense when you are altering nature where things are not naturally supposed to occur. We had massive flooding in California, and we have a system called HARP that is in the United States. And the same people who demonized me 5-10 years ago are now going, wow, because they're finding it's openly admitted in all of our U.S. documents. The U.S. is absolutely not the only country doing it.
Yeah, she's absolutely right. This happens throughout the world, and we've been trying to combat this as much as possible. For those of you who've been following us for a long time, they would have these chemicals stored in these different locations, and then every time we would try to remove a location, they'd move it, or, go to a different place, or, we discover it with somewhere else and a different contract. So what we need is more people to understand the situation and to stand up against it. There have been some states that have come out and said, no, I think Florida was one of the states that said, none of this cloud seeding, geoengineering, we don't want that in our state. We need more of that, and we need that around the world. So again, for a deep dive on Helene, I encourage you guys to check out Kim's report. We also did an update on the Environmental Protection Agency, which they should really change their name because they're not protecting anything. They have been defending the use of fluoride forever. Fluoride in our drinking water. Absolutely ridiculous. However, there was a ruling recently where a judge, it wasn't a full-on victory for people that are trying to remove fluoride from the water, but it was a step in the right direction. So the judge ruled that the Environmental Protection Agency must take another look at all of this data, this overwhelming data regarding issues of fluoridated water, specifically how it's affecting the development of infants' brains. Because the issue is, they'll say, oh, it's not enough fluoride to impact people. The problem is that we are getting fluoride from so many different places, so many different sources, that when you combine it together, it's insanely over the limit we're supposed to have. Also, there is a big difference between natural fluoride and the crap that they're putting in our water. Sorry, but that's what it is, okay? It's toxic waste that they're putting in our water. It is not natural. So again, a good step in the right direction. Not that every judge, is really out there trying to do good, because we know a lot of this is controlled as well. That is their judicial system as well. However, if more people start talking about this, we will really become the change that we want to see in the world. We cannot rely on these institutions that have failed us for a very long time to come in and be our saviors. Still, a news article gets out like this, we reported on it, and our story was really just about the use of fluoride over the years, and that the information is overwhelmingly supportive of not consuming it. It's not a good thing. If it's not natural, don't do it, right? That's pretty much our philosophy. We also did a story on pasture-raised labels. Okay, let's talk about this for a second. So, the labeling that you see on different things. I'm thinking specifically meat products. If you go to a regular grocery store and you get something, it'll usually have some labels on it. And one of those labels could be pasture-raised. So what exactly does that mean? Because it's causing some controversy for really good reasons. The USDA is making some changes because they basically have these stickers or these labels, right? And then they have a guidebook that is supposed to tell you what these labels mean. Not that anyone ever looks at the guidebook. This is a flawed strategy in my opinion, but still. So they're making changes to the guidebook on what pasture-raised means. Does it mean that a chicken is always out on pasture? Does it mean that they get an hour of pasture time? Does it mean that they have it from the beginning of their life or through the crucial years of their life? Or are they just getting a little bit of time out there right before they go to the slaughterhouse? Like, what does pasture-raised mean? Here is a quick soundbite from an interview I did with Mike Badger. He is with the APPPA, which is the American Pastured Poultry Producers Association, talking about how this is an issue in his industry.
It's a problem, and it's been a problem for a long time. A couple of years ago, USDA, I think it was 2019, beginning of 2020, they published label guidelines for FSIS, their Food Safety Inspection Service, that basically made pasture-raised the equivalent of, and synonymous, it was the term they used, synonymous with free range. So pasture-raised, free range are synonymous terms in their eyes. And what that really did is it really watered down the difference that pasture-raised was, right? We believe strongly that there is a difference in those terms. They're raised differently. Consumers have different expectations. And so there are some of the problems you get when you get into labeling at the federal level, and you bring all the commercial poultry people into the game because they want to capitalize really on the premium without really transforming their model.
Yeah, we hear about this. This happens quite a bit. And so the hope is with the USDA making some changes to this guidebook. Maybe it's a step in the right direction. I know a lot of these organizations are kind of taking matters into their own hands and providing their own labels and classifications. And maybe that's the way it needs to happen. So if you would like to participate in this discussion, they do have this whole changing of the labels, what does it mean in the handbook? This is open for public discussion now. And there's a website that you can go to. We talk more about it in the report if you want to contribute to that conversation. All right. We also, I did an interview this week with Patrick Wayness, who is a behavioral specialist. And I talked to Patrick about the 5-second rule in relationships. Now, when you first hear that, you may be thinking of 5-second rule, like I can pick up food off the floor if it's only been 5 seconds or less. Nope, that's not what we're talking about. Something completely different. But it's about the conversations that we have with each other and how things can quickly escalate. But if we just take 5 seconds before we respond so that we can actually think about a response and maybe not have our emotions get the best of us, that it can save relationships.
So what we've noticed in relationships, and I'm sure you already know this, and everyone listening or watching knows the same thing, we respond to each other's emotions. We also respond to each other's aggression. So if I'm being aggressive to you, it's most likely you're going to be aggressive in response. You're now in the middle of it, or you're starting. If you can become aware that either you, your body is responding, or the other person, your partner, is responding aggressively, or there's some intense level of emotion, you take a 5-second pause. Again, this is obvious. And yet if it is so obvious, why don't we do it? Because we get caught up in the emotion. And if you're able to remind yourself, and I'll tell you how to do this in a second, but if you're able to remind yourself to stop, to pause for 5 seconds, gives you a chance to use your prefrontal cortex to say, wait a minute, what do I really want here? What do I really want to do? And it's not to punish the other person. It's not to be aggressive in response. It's to achieve some other objective.
Patrick also suggests having some sort of code word to perhaps break the ice. So if you guys are getting into some heated conversation and someone just yells periwinkle, that could totally break the train of thought. It's really more of an energetic break, right? Maybe you might even laugh. So I don't know, something to think about, because those kind of conversations can be really difficult, right? And you never know when they're going to pop up, and then suddenly the conversation's out of control, and you don't want that. We don't want to hurt each other's feelings. All right, another story we worked on this week in Florida. So their governor, which is Ron DeSantis, signed a law banning camping or sleeping on public property in Florida. So this has been dubbed the homelessness ban, which doesn't really look good for him, right? Who wants to ban the homeless? According to DeSantis, he claims this is hurting taxpayers, but it's not quite fair to say, hey, we're going to due to quote unquote inflation, which is not a real thing, we are going to raise your rents, right? The prices of your homes. We're going to charge you an arm and a leg at the grocery store or wherever you're buying your food. And you also have to deal with it, and you can't be homeless. And yes, there are some people that choose to be homeless because they don't want to follow the rules. But there's also people that are living out of their cars. And so we did this whole story on what some locals are doing to help in that area to provide spaces for these people. And we just talk about the issue in general. This is upsetting a lot of people because their money is being taken away from them in various ways, usually due to large corporations, the government, whatever. And there's really no alternative. So, don't be homeless. Whatever you do, don't be homeless. Well, then why don't you help us out a little bit? Actually, government, you've done enough. Maybe we don't need any government help. That I had a chance to think about that. Just go away. Let us live, as sovereign beings, and it'll be all good. And our final story that we released on Friday was about sleep maxing. So this is a viral trend for those of you that are online on the social medias. This is, it's spelled sleep and then MAXXING. So you can look it up. But people are sharing their crazy sleep tips. And some of them are just funny. Let's face it. Some people are like sleeping on counters. I'm like, how does that help you sleep better? But I like the idea behind it, especially if you're using things that are more natural, especially if we're getting to know how our bodies actually sleep better. What are some of the crazy things? We've been talking about them on the news recently. Maybe don't look at your phone and your computer and all this crazy stuff that's giving you all this blue light right before you go to bed. So we asked our field messengers, because again, you guys are the heart and soul of what UNN is all about. We asked you guys to share some of your more natural sleep tips with us, and that's going to be our soundbite for this story. So here are a handful of our field messengers.
Good day, Field Messenger Hagen reporting for UNN, coming to you from Los Angeles, California. A sleep hack that has worked tremendously for me is changing the orientation of my bed to face north and south, aligning myself to the planet. I usually toss and turn, but after doing this, I am sleeping on my back for the most part. And I also use these grounding wristbands, which allow me to have rejuvenating sleep. Thank you for watching.
Amy from Parsippany, New Jersey. I have a seizure disorder, petit mal, from a head injury. And when I have an issue, sometimes my days and nights switch. So what I do to get my sleep back is I go outside and I do some grounding, barefoot, before 10 o'clock in the morning. And if I can get in a place where the sun is shining on me with my feet on the ground, and that sometimes helps put me back into sync.
Hi, I'm Lori from Northeast Ohio, and one of the things that I noticed that maybe helped me sleep better is I started taking taurine, 500 milligrams at night before I go to sleep on an empty stomach. I'm only 5'1.5", so I don't know if that would be good for everyone, but I don't take any other medications, so I'm not sure about drug interactions. It's an amino acid, and but I've noticed my quality of sleep has been much better. I'm 58, and my sleep was terrible since 50, and now I'm starting to notice a difference since I started taking it. Thanks.
My sleep hacks are to turn off devices, phones, and computers 2 hours before going to sleep, turn on some meditative music, that always works, do some gentle stretching, and to have the last thoughts in my mind before I go into that deep, peaceful sleep are to be a mantra, a prayer, a meditative discussion, conversation with God, with the Almighty, to turn these nighttime hours into being something fruitful, and to being just sleeping into being an all-night continuous meditation. Thanks, UNN.
Hello, this is Karen from the west of Ireland, reporting for UNN. So my tips are meditation before you go to bed to clear your mind, to calm your mind, fresh air in the bedroom, open the window, no PC, no e-reader, no TV, nothing for at least 1 hour before you go to bed. And go to bed before midnight, because the time you spend sleeping before midnight counts double.
All right. Thanks to all of our field messengers who submitted for that. What I'm trying to do, you guys, just to give you a heads up, is I'm trying to put a question out for you at least once a week. I feel like that's a good cadence right now. So, you know, I look at the news stories that are coming up for this week and try to pick something that you guys can participate in. If you're interested in getting involved in this way, because this is a great way to kind of get started with being a field messenger, make sure you're following the Field Messenger group on Telegram. So you can go on our website, go in the Field Messenger section, and it will have a link to that Telegram group if you're not already part of it, because I post a video, and what I've done for the last couple weeks is I post a video asking you guys a question, and then you have about 30 seconds to give your input, and you post your response, your video response to the Telegram channel, and then we pick some and we run them on the news. So if you want to participate in that, follow us on the Telegram group for Field Messengers, and I'll probably be posting the next video very soon. Now it's time for some highlights from the Global Intelligence Agency report. This is a report that comes out 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, with Kim Gogan, who is the head of the GIA. All right, the first thing that Kim talks about on Monday's report is that 722 banks are reporting unrealized losses up to 50% of their capital. And I know you didn't hear this on mainstream news. You're not going to, right? Why is this happening? Well, this is related to the loss of the Omega system. We've been talking about this. This is it's an AI system that the deep state used for millennia, many, many years, to control humanity in various ways. It wasn't only, the deep state using it because they were very low on the totem pole, but they're alien overlords. Sorry if that's getting too much in the weeds for some of you, but that is the reality of how our planet was run. So these ET beings that did not have our best interest in mind would all tap into the Omega system to do their dirty deeds, okay? And that system is going away. These banks, a lot of their numbers on their screen are suddenly just disappearing because Omega is disappearing. Here's Kim explaining the situation a little bit more.
In their quest for world domination, they found out that it's much worse than they had thought. Originally, they were seeing some off-ledger funds, that kind of thing, on back screens, but it wasn't actually real money. It had no allocation numbers. I know that they were trading, and there was a bunch of other stuff that they could see. So by this weekend, when the UN Security Council was tasked to looking into this, all those numbers disappeared. So what did they see? About 50% less in all banks than they actually thought as far as their capital was concerned. And of course, the capital of every single bank in the world is tied to the Federal Reserve. So when those numbers disappeared, a lot of the numbers that the Fed was counting on also disappeared, leaving the deep state kind of scratching their head as to what they're going to do next.
Well, we know they always come up with something. Not the brightest of ideas, but they've always got something, such as they are still waiting for global martial law. They believe this is going to put them in charge, so they're going to get a bunch of money. I don't know what they're thinking, because anytime they make crazy plans like this, it never works. We don't really know what's going on in their head, although they keep thinking that if they do bad stuff to humanity and control humanity and, try to throw hurricanes and stuff our way, that their alien friends are going to come back and somehow reward them. So they are still waiting to have global martial law. At least as of Monday, they were still waiting. The good news is that some of them went on a fact-finding mission, okay, which is good, about why isn't money coming in? We're doing bad things to humanity. Why isn't money, money should be flowing in. We've got this war going on, Russia, Ukraine, all this stuff going on in Israel. And, nasty weather stuff going on. Why isn't money falling from the sky like it used to? So they are learning that the world is changing. You know, the stuff that we've been talking about for a very long time that our regular audience understands, they are starting to learn more and more about this. Now, this has been, man, it feels like it's taken forever for information to get to the right people because these people are so compartmentalized and because they don't share information with each other. So when one group gets eliminated because they were doing some crazy demonic ritual at whatever mountain, then, they didn't tell the people below them what was going on. And so you got to re-educate the next group of people. And like I said, it feels like it has been taking forever to do that. So we had some more fact finding going on, and Kim was able to filter some information to them so they kind of understood a little bit about what was going on our planet, which is good, which prompted, I don't know if you guys saw in the headlines. So Elon Musk, which you guys know, I am not a fan of Elon Musk whatsoever. I interviewed his babysitter who talks about how he used to play with demons. So he is not a good guy in my mind. But Elon Musk did this random visit to meet with Trump, which we know that's not really Trump, but the Trump operatives. What was that all about? He just went to this rally, very, very strange. So Kim gives us some background on what actually happened here, and it's based on the deep state getting a little bit more information about what's really happening on this planet. So here's Kim.
They contacted people like Elon Musk. How interesting is that? So Elon Musk shows up at a Trump rally over the weekend, I think it was Saturday night, with his newfound information. How exciting. He went to meet the Trump operatives. And here's what he told them. And this is a quote, actually, from this meeting. He said, "I believe the United States of America is now harboring the creator of the universe and all living things within. The entire world is about to dramatically change for better or for worse. And this is either the end or the start of humanity, and to expect the unexpected."
Finally, some truth comes out of Elon Musk. Although I would say, how egotistical for Elon Musk to say, oh, God is in the United States. Give me a break. Unless he was just playing to the Trump operatives and their crazy ego. God is everywhere. Everything is made of God, the creator. So you can't even escape God if you wanted to. Don't even get me started. But at least they're starting to notice that things are changing. And these are things that they can't control. We couldn't even stop it if we wanted to. And obviously we don't. We are on the side of the light. We want our planet to be restored. We want humanity and all living organic beings to be fully restored and have complete sovereignty. So of course, we're not going to come in the way of that. But who knows what these guys are going to do, but at least some information is getting out there. I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall, okay, with the Trump operatives, the Duck Dynasty people just kind of scratching their heads going, what? What's this Elon guy talking about? But obviously, Elon got the information from someone else. He's just the front guy. He's the puppet, just like, any Trump person, whatever they've got dressed up over there, the Trump guy, he's a puppet as well. They're all puppets. The next soundbite that I want to play for you guys is from Kim giving an update on all the disinformation out there from news media about Hurricane Milton. So what you need to understand here is, and she'll explain it a little bit more in this soundbite, but we've been talking about Omega and how Omega is going away. Well, Omega used to feed information directly to these major news stations. So at times, there wasn't even a human as a go-between. I don't know exactly how it was done. I can tell you when I was in the news business, sometimes information would just spit out in these different programs that we had. Like we had a subscription to the Associated Press and the articles that came down from the Associated Press, and we had a subscription to Reuters. And these articles would just appear. So, was Omega feeding information that way? Possibly. We don't really know. But the point is that Omega is practically gone. It's like having the slowest, in my opinion, death in the world. It's kind of like the death of the deep state. You're like, on with it, really, please. But Omega can't really help them anymore. So you have, and I call it disinformation because it is disinformation. There's a difference between misinformation and disinformation. So misinformation is information that's given that doesn't have, like you're not trying to provide bad information, okay? It just so happens that the information you have, no matter how much you believe it, isn't correct. That's misinformation. Disinformation is when you knowingly give other people bad information deliberately. So this information coming from Omega, at least on the Omega side of stuff, would have been disinformation. And who knows, I don't think the media always understands what's going on, right? Certainly some of the CIA operatives that work for the mainstream media understand, but that's how the information gets out. So what you had was a lot of information coming out saying, oh, Hurricane Milton is going to be this huge hurricane. Like I said, it's going to be whatever. We got to come up with a new category for how big this hurricane is going to be. And that's not what happened. So here's a little bit more information from Kim on how this really got blown out of proportion.
There's obviously some disruption going on in mainstream media because all of your big guys, I just wanted to remind you, like Fox, CNN, and your larger new, ABC, NBC, your larger news channels, were still reporting that this hurricane was a Category 5. And your local news channels were reporting that it is a Category 3. And the Category 3 was being reported by several smaller news channels, mostly local. And the larger news channels were still saying it's a 5. It could be a 6. We don't know yet. It's a matter of the larger news channels getting their news 2 days ahead of time. They're being told by the deep state what is going to happen with this hurricane because, of course, they're overconfident as to their weather manipulation skills. But, that and there's one more thing going on here, too. The Omega system used to have direct connections to the mainstream media, and it would feed them what it was going to do ahead of time. And to some degree, a lesser degree these days, they're still getting their, mainline reports from Omega until today. So now that has happened, they're scrambling to try to actually report some real information.
Yeah, you're going to get more real information from the local news, right? Because they weren't necessarily part of this whole system. They inadvertently played a role, but most of them didn't even realize they were playing a role, right? If information just gets sent down from Omega and you're thinking it's coming from a quality source that's been somehow qualified to send information to all these affiliates around the world, you trust it. A lot of these smaller stations, including myself, who used to work for these smaller stations, didn't know where the information was actually coming from. We just trusted these news groups. A couple of other things that Kim mentioned is there was a call that happened this week with the elite groups. Okay, so we're talking about the Order of the Black Sun, the Order of the Dragon, and, some of these other elites that wanted to do this whole global martial law thing. They got together when they realized, especially after 10/10, which, they love their dates, that didn't happen. They were not going to have the resources to gain control to pull off global martial law like they planned. And they really didn't have a plan in this meeting, according to Kim. They just knew that no one was really performing, and they had to get together to talk because just a few short hours later, they were to meet with the militaries of the world because this was just hours before this global martial law was to take place. So the militaries of the world are waiting around for orders and for money because it's not just, taking orders. It's like, now give me money in order to do what you want me to do, but nothing happened. So when they finally got on the phone with the militaries of the world, according to Kim, it was a screaming fit. Complete chaos. They were talking about leaving. They get all like mad, which I completely understand. And we don't really know what happened, what resulted in this after this screaming fit, like what other calls happened or what happened beyond that. We know that the GIA got a phone call. Now, in this case, the phone call didn't go to Kim. It went to Tom Melville. And he received a call from these generals claiming that everything was about to change. They were going to turn over a new leaf and you were going to start to see stuff in the media and, everything's coming up roses kind of thing. And that didn't happen either. So Kim's like, I haven't seen anything except it resulted in this hackathon. And they hacked and hacked and hacked. And, that's kind of their thing. Trying to get control of these different systems that they used to have access to, but nothing worked. So I don't know, did some money exchange hands? Were they just trying to give them something to do to, keep them busy? They always say that money's going to come on a, certain day and it never does. But that's kind of the update on the global martial law. Everyone knows it's not going to happen, not happening, and no one's getting paid. Kim also gives a more detailed explanation of what's going on in the Ukraine and Russia situation, because Ukraine came out this week. There were some reports that Zelensky requested a ceasefire, but you're not really seeing anything happen in mainstream media. So Kim gives us an update on what's going on there, a deep dive into Russia and the fact that they're kind of coming off as the world's savior. No reason for that. They are part of the deep state just like anybody else, but they're just playing their role. Kim also gives us an update on humanitarian efforts and things that are really happening to help the people that have been struggling due to these hurricanes that have come out. There is stuff happening, okay? Is it as much as we would like? I would say probably not, but there is stuff happening. A lot of it isn't going to show up in the news because we're trying to be discreet with what we're doing. And that is for the protection of everyone. You guys have heard the reports about FEMA trying to stop supplies and all this craziness. FEMA was supposed to help us. So what in the world's going on there, right? So sometimes it's just best to keep things under wraps, but Kim does give us a brief update on that, so you can check out Friday's report. For those of you wanting to know, where is Omega at right now? Because I believe last week we talked about, it was like 0.3% of life left. So, when I say this thing has been on its deathbed for a while, but you have to understand, this has been a system that has been in place and controlling this planet for so long. So you kind of expect, the death rattle to take a long time. So according to Kim, I believe she said it was 0.07%. And I know we want this to be wrapped up as quickly as possible. We are making progress. And when this thing is gone, guys, it is gone. It is the last chip that the deep state has to play. And then it's full on restoration. So guys, we are so close. Keep the faith, keep your vibrations high. If you guys want to learn more about us, if this is all new to you and you're like, what are these people talking about? You can go to unitednetwork.earth. If you become a member, that gives you on-demand access to all of our content. That includes our complete news updates released 3 times a week right now. You get access to the New Earth interviews and that whole show, which we're about to relaunch, the complete Global Intelligence Agency report, and of course, all things restoration, which is what we're on the path for. All right, guys, this has been The Rundown. I'm Sunny Galt for United Network News, signing off.